That looks like power to me, like a power switch.
Power would be right here, though.
That's your, oh yeah, that's right.
Record it right here.
That's
Boom.
good symbol. Yeah, there you go. Hit it. There you go. Please wait. We're fucking recording.
Are you recording? It is recording.
Recording. This will be preserved for all time.
All time. All right. First off, man, cheers.
Cheers.
How's this going to go? It's going to go how it goes, and I'm excited that it's going the way it's going. Everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of No Politics, No Religion. Tell us your story.
None.
So I couldn't do a first episode without bringing one of my favorite people on the entire planet. I want to have a dramatic introduction, but he's already right here. You've heard him on the radio. You've seen him on TV. And right now you get to see him live on No Politics, No Religion. Tell us your story. I know him as Eric Sprigg. You may know him as the world-renowned Lizardman. Lizardman, Eric. What's
Cheers,
new,
man.
brother? Cheers. Ah.
I gotta do the fake, like, oh, we're just sitting down to have a conversation. Like, we haven't been talking for the last 2 fucking days.
Yeah, the last 2 days. We just ended up doing a run of shows. We had a great time. Eric did Eric things. I did Jacob things, and now we're here. So as you already know, my intent with this podcast is very much to counter the doom and gloom. You know, I know that there's a place for politics and religion, but when it comes to my world, it's not my area of expertise.
Because of this, because of what you said, because you wanted to call it No Politics, No Religion, just tell me a story, just a good conversation, that sort of thing. I started thinking about it, like, you know what the problem is with discussing politics and religion is that everybody will talk about politics or religion. You know, no matter who the person is, they have something like that, but almost nobody is qualified, right? You literally have a bunch of people that don't know what the fuck they're talking about, myself included, talking about politics. So it's almost always a pointless discussion. Mm-hmm. Because none of us fucking know enough, right? The only thing I've ever figured out is that anybody who thinks there's a simple solution doesn't understand the problem.
Right.
And so you end up with simple people arguing with each other. Like, you ever watch like 2 little kids argue with each other? It's the exact same thing when you watch 2 people who aren't actually professional politicians or like religious studies people. They argue and you're standing there going like, neither of you knows what the hell you're talking about.
Right. And quite frankly, you know me well enough to know. Yeah. I think there's better ways to spend your time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to celebrate. I want this podcast to be a celebration of the person sitting across from me.
And I think that's why we do get exhausted of that shit too. Like, it's like, you know, if somebody said like, oh, come on my podcast and let's talk about your religion. I'm like, really? I'm not fucking all day long inundated with other people's bullshit and I got to bring up my own bullshit and defend that. Like, that's exhausting. Yeah?
Right.
Like you say, there's other better, more enjoyable ways to spend your time. If you have to discuss it, fine. But if you don't, give yourself a fucking break.
Yeah, and I actually have strong opinions about not discussing it, but I don't want to do that right now. I want to discuss you.
Right.
I know you, but I knew you for 10 years before I even asked you about this.
Right.
Like, we were friends for 10 years, and then one day I'm like, so why are you green? But I do want to start this off, and I do want to take like a fun approach. Again, this is about celebrating the person that's sitting next to me and whoever we're talking to. It is a hero's journey. I don't care what your occupation is. If you want to have a good time with us, that's what we want to do. But before we talk about all of this, I do want to ask you a cheeky little childhood question.
Right.
It's something we asked when we were young, and I'm going to ask it again right now because we can't be it's all work all the time. So I want to ask you something we asked each other as youths.
Yeah.
If you could have a superhero power, whatever superhero power you could have, what would it be and what would you do with it?
It's weird because, like I said, ask that question since a kid, and my answer has changed back and forth because it's always, because I'm a superhero, comic book kind of guy, that it's always like, oh, I love to do that. Oh, no, wait, that was it. So, but when that question comes up, there's weird ones too, because I think of things like Superman. I don't like Superman because he's too overpowered, right? There's too super like that. So I don't want to take a power that's, you know, ridiculous, because then you're like, what would you do with it? Well, I'd rule the fucking world, but I don't want to rule the world, right? So if I don't want power to rule the world, what do I want it for, sort of thing? And, you know, there's the ones that now I always think about the genie curse, right, too. It's like, oh, well, you can have that superpower, but it comes with the dark side, right? It's like, you'd be immortal, but you outlive all your friends and family, and and life sucks, right? Or, you know, you get a healing, like, oh, I want Wolverine's healing factor. And then you go, oh, wait, shit, it still hurts. Right? You're like, oh God, like the agonizing pain of pulling yourself back together. Yeah, well, that's one of the big things about his character, right? Is like, it's not that he doesn't feel pain, it's just that he will recover. And like, look, there's some pain that you don't want to recover from sometimes. You're just like, oh shit, just make it stop, right? But no, it's going to put you, like, imagine being on fire, right? And you're not dying because you're healing, but you're still burning. You're still like, so yeah, I have those fucking dark, intrusive thoughts where like, I can ruin any superpower almost.
Okay.
And, so I kind of want to keep like inviting, like, okay, what would I want? I feel like the best one for me, because like I said, I don't want to, I'm not going to be I'm not going to turn into world police. I'm not going to go conquer the world. I just want something that will benefit me, enough without being, because I'm not going to use it to be a dick anymore. Like maybe when I was younger, yeah, sure, I would have done whatever. But now it's like, not immortality, but sort of physical immunity, like don't get sick. Bullets would bounce off, something like that. So those things where I don't have to be careful anymore, right? It's like, oh, I'll never fall down the stairs and break a hip. If I want to, I can go throw myself off a building. So that sort of invulnerability.
So you've been living like that anyway.
Pretending like
you're like, I can't be hurt. I'm like, don't do that, dude.
That's it. Yeah, that is like the first 30 years of my life, I did kind of act like I had that superpower. Like, oh, no, I'm not going to get hurt. Nothing's going to fucking kill me. And I've dodged death a number of stupid ways. And now I'm kind of like, yeah, I need that power just in case.
So, I mean, I think that comes with a little bit of age.
Right.
Now that you're like, oh, I'm a little older, that might hurt.
Right. If I was younger, I might be like, you're a teenager, you're like, oh, I'm invisible. I can go into the girls' locker room. Then you're like, hey, don't be a creep. Grow up, you motherfucker, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or then it's like, okay, I want to be super strong and have heat vision. I'll rid the world of terrorists and all that shit. I'm like, no, I still got to get there, right? It's going to be exhausting. They're going to fly me around the world every time somebody's an asshole. And plus, you're
going to be a jet-lagged hero.
And who wants to be world police anyway? That's not what I'm trying to do, right? Like I said, I'm not trying to conquer the world anymore. So it's just like, I just want to know that I can go have fun and do it, and it's not going to hurt me.
So speaking of not getting hurt, you don't know this at all. Sometimes things sound so grand, and
right.
we weren't best friends when we met. We became, and we grew into that.
No, that's movies where people are like, oh my God, we're best friends. I'm like, no, you still got to get to know this person. Even if you meet your soulmate tomorrow, whether it be, platonically or regularly, that's never true. That's the fucking dream.
Here's what you didn't know. So it's 2014. We go to London. Tell that story a little bit later. I'm telling you this almost to make a confession.
Right.
You hear like motivational speakers say a story that's so grand. You're like, that didn't happen.
Right.
You're just like, oh,
you exaggerated that.
Yeah,
right?
It's like,
it never happens that perfectly.
You're doing that because it's an effective story, but it didn't happen to you.
Yeah.
That same thing. One time we were in London and it was 2014 and you told me a story and I'm like, nah, that's too big. I listened to it. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Privately, I looked it up.
Yeah.
This is 2014. I was just like, he brought me to London. We're clearly friends. We're getting along, but that story just sounds like a pile of dog poop. So I go to my phone. I'm like, oh, he did that thing. He did that thing. And that brings me to this. You've been the Lizardman for a long time, but
you were fact-checking way ahead of the game. You were,
and I didn't want to, but it just sounded a bit much. Right. It sounded a bit much, and I didn't doubt you, but I didn't know you well enough to trust you.
Yeah, to be like, oh yeah, that absolutely, yeah.
No, now you can tell me anything, and I'll tell somebody he's telling the truth. Now you can be like, oh, Jacob, guess what? Like, I ate glass and it came out in the form of a diamond. I'm like, Eric just made diamond poop. And I would sell it. And then I'd be like, I would actually sell it.
But so I played rugby with a guy in the 90s and everybody thought he was the biggest bullshit artist in the world, right? But then one day he dropped out a thing about being on the Cosby Show as a kid. And everybody was like, it's another one of his stories. Another dumb story like that. And then he pulls out the VHS fucking tape. And puts it, and sure enough, they did an episode where Rudy Huxtable plays football. The girl plays football, right?
Mm-hmm.
The local, and he was a kid growing up in New York City. They got his elementary school, like his little league. It's not little league, whatever they call fucking junior football, right?
Mm.
That's his fucking team. So yeah, he was on it. His mom and dad are in the state, like all the families, all go with, and yeah, everybody on the team all of a sudden went, I don't know what to fucking believe anymore.
Yeah,
like anything he said might have been true. Because this truly unbelievable thing was true.
Yeah. And you had told me about it, and I was like, oh, wow, this guy's as legit as they come. Look, I'd seen TV stuff, but whatever this was, I mean, I know what it was. I didn't see that on TV, and quite frankly, I wasn't Captain YouTube at the time anyway.
Right, yeah.
But so that goes to what I want to talk about, your hero's journey to how you got to where you are today. You started off a little human boy and now you're a lizard.
Yeah.
People forget that you're still human.
Right.
Like one of my friend's dad's like, what does he eat? I'm like, human blood. He's like, really? I'm like, no. He eats sandwiches just like you and
Yeah.
me. So growing up, you were clearly athletic. I know we've talked about that
Yeah,
stuff. What was life growing up in upstate New York like for you?
And that's the key part right there is upstate New York. So like anything I say about my childhood, like or growing up, you have to put against the context of I grew up in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like you still have to zoom in on Google Map to find, because it's not even really a town. It's houses and buildings and a school and to make all spread out along this rural route. There's only 1,500 people in the town today. It was even smaller in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up there. So if you were better than mediocre, you were kind of top tier because it's a very small pool, right? I was the big fish in a small pond, right? Academically, both my parents are teachers. I had a leg up, and we're also talking about a very sort of, like say, rural, economically depressed area, old family farms that are struggling. Like most of them today have shut down. Like farms that I worked as a kid growing up aren't around anymore. They've been taken over by corporate farm interests. So, it wasn't the most competitive environment, right? I probably wouldn't have been that high up if I had been in New York City at like a charter school or something like that. I would have been. That's what happened when I got to college. I sort of met people that were on my own level, competing wise, like that. And it's not that, I'm not saying I was better than anybody, but I did better in school. And I did better in school by a large margin because it was a very small pond of people to compete against. And I had all the advantages, right? My mom and dad are teachers and they're doing extra work with me at home. I could read before I got to kindergarten. I had a library card and I went and got my own library books at 4 years old because my mom had me fucking reading. Doing like, right? Like my friends' moms, they were up at 4 a.m. cooking breakfast for farm hands, and the family had to go out and fucking get the cows and bring them in and do all this. So yeah, I had those advantages, and naturally, that's where I guess where I was. To say I was athletic, I played varsity sports, things like that. In a real competitive world, I would have been warm-up team at my best, right? But I was active. Yeah, I wasn't the classic nerd that didn't do it. I was the nerd athlete, right?
Student athlete.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that I did really well academically and I did well enough sports wise. By my senior year, I kind of late bloomed physically too. It wasn't until my senior year that I was like, okay, now I'm a starter on the soccer team. I'm playing multiple sports. In the summers, I was a lifeguard. So yeah, I was very active. My dad had a military background and we were active year round. If in the winter, it's skiing, cross-country skiing, downhill skiing, snowmobiling, dog sleds. We had a dog team growing up. And that was another thing about my dad too. I say like advantages, like I'm very much like my dad in that I think I learned this from him is like, oh, if you see something and you want to try it, well, just do it. You don't have to go get the best or whatever, or you can figure out a way to do it on your own. My dad built his own kayaks. He built his own dog sled. It wasn't like it was like, oh, we've got all the money. We didn't have money. No,
right.
They're poor rural teachers. But we had the will to go try stuff, right? And my dad, through his time in the military, because he was still active when I was a really young, would be like, oh, he would take me to like the challenge course. And, I would get to go rappelling and things like that. So it was always like, and he was very big. My mom was too. It was like, being my sister, try everything, figure out, basically the whole get to know yourself thing. And that's one of the biggest advantages they gave me is that by the time I was 18 and leaving home, I had done and tried so much that I had a pretty good idea of who I was, better than I was still a fucking dumb 18-year-old,
right?
But I wasn't quite as dumb as the other 18. My freshman year at college, I'm watching people puking on their shoes, fucking up their grades, everything like that. And I'm drinking, I'm partying, I am off my fucking ass all the time. But I'm also getting my work done. I'm getting my grades because I had already I'd been broken into alcohol a little bit better, too, and had a better perspective of it. I had a chance to be free. It wasn't the first time I didn't have my parents looking over my shoulder. I grew up in upstate New York. I would get on my bike at 7 a.m. and nobody was going to be worried if I wasn't back, like depending on what day it was, for days. It was, the rules were as you left the house, don't get killed and don't kill anyone unless you have to not get killed. And we'll see you whenever you get home.
Okay. Where did you go to college?
I did my undergraduate degree, my bachelor's degree at Hartwick College in Oneonta, New York, which interestingly enough, it had an enrollment of the time of 1,500 students. So I left
Your city.
I left the town. Yeah, the city. I left a rural farming town of 1,500 people to go to a school that had 1,500 people in a town that had, I think it was like 10,000 or something like that. So yeah, each time I kind of moved in my life, I incrementally like moved up like to another magnitude, bigger and bigger. But it's, you know, I come from that small town root sort of thing. And frankly, too, I say, like, you know, big fish in a small pond, it's also more opportunities, right? If we lived in New York, my dad would have been even harder to afford, you know, different things like that. And we wouldn't have had the freedom and all the space to go out and do stuff. You know, I grew up in a pine forest in a log cabin made from trees that my mom and dad had felled out of the forest. My granddad, I grew up with my grandfather. He died when I was fairly young, but was a significant influence. He built his own house. So he worked in a mine as a foreman and an engineer after he came back from, I think it was when he came back from Korea, maybe it's World War II. I remember, but anyway, back from military service, drafted like my dad was. He's got his day job. He's looking at all this, like, he comes home, he made a mold to make his own concrete blocks. He made a mold of a concrete block and poured concrete and made concrete blocks until he had enough of them to build a foundation for a house. He had a Quonset hut that he had gotten surplus from the military. That's what my dad and his sisters were initially living in, as my granddad was building the base of the house just inside the walls of the tent. And he built by hand, made every brick himself. Didn't just build the house himself, made every one of the bricks. And everything. So like,
That's awesome.
It's weird for me now because, you know, I live in a house that I bought. But I still have this thing where I remember dad and granddad knew every nook and cranny of the house because they fucking built it, right? So any question about what was going on with the plumbing is like, well, you know, it's not like me. I have to open up a wall in my house and go, what fucking idiot did this? And then, you know, they're like, oh, I'm the idiot that did it, right? Looking at their own work and straightening it out again. So I try to get that familiar with my house, like different things like that I carry from that.
So you end up going to college, you get your degree. What was, I mean, because we can talk for days and we know each other very well, but there's still a lot we don't know. After what, 16 years of friendship, 15 years of friendship, there's still a lot. But what was it that from college, when did you start to, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't you say this was some sort of art project? I mean, break down when you decided, like, what, I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know the answer to this question. What was, before you even thought Lizardman?
Yeah.
What and where was the first tattoo?
Well, I mean, Lizardman is the first tattoo. Okay. So what happened was, I mean, I had an interest in art and sort of body-based and odder, more conceptual forms of art going into college. When I was a freshman, I'm 18 years old, and I used to do this thing, and I did it in my high school library. I do it at libraries randomly, where I just go to a library and walk around, not pay attention to what section I'm in, and then just when it feels right, you grab a book, you pull it out. Is it technically called bibliomancy, but it's sort of with the Bible. Like, people try to predict the future. You're looking for an omen, right? And it was for me, I don't believe in omens or any of that shit, but it was just a fun thing to do and a way to like find new shit, expose myself to new stuff. Like, oh, hey, I walked through the library. Oh, that's interesting. What is it? Oh, Cleopatra or whatever. Right? So one night, college freshman, haven't really developed a social group, haven't got a lot going on. I'm in the school, the Hartwick Library, and I'm walking around. Turns out I'm in the photo section, art and photo section. And I grab a book, I pull it off the shelf. It's a book called The Japanese Tattoo. And it's this very lovely book, one of the earliest ones that really documented the work of Japanese masters tattooing, full body work, all thematic, you know, one big piece planned out, you know, and it was the first time in my life I knew about tattoos, but I had never wanted one or even really thought about getting one. I looked at that book, I saw tattoos and I saw art. I saw tattoos as art for the first time, which was a big change in my thinking. It was like, before that, like, tattoos are, oh, you know, my dad's in the military, soldiers have tattoos, you know, farm kids. I had friends growing up that needle hand poke tattoos themselves because they're bored farm kids, right? And of course, everybody knows criminals and sailors and all the other bullshit, right? So that's how I thought about tattoos when I was 18, if I thought about them at all. But I saw this book and I went, wow, tattoos can be art. Like, that is powerful. And when you see a human body just painted, it fucking hits you, right? When you see it tattooed, you know, like, wait, that person sat still and bled for hours and will wear that for the rest of their life. Like, there's a reason that tattoos are significant. They appeal to us that way. And so I saw that and I started thinking right away. I was like, wow, you know, I kind of want to do that. Like, it's one of those things where I saw it just was like, I want that, but I didn't want a Japanese tattoo because I'm not Japanese. I wanted that sort of art. You know, I wanted to be art in that way. And that started me down a path of like learning about the old tattooed men of the sideshow and different tattoo histories. And for about 3.5 years, I'm like working on ideas for what how I would get tattooed, why I wanted to do it. And I had other performance art ideas about becoming non-human. Like I wanted to be now they call it like a cryptid, but I always liked Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster because they're great hoaxes. Especially when I was like college age, one of my dreams or my goals in life was to create a great hoax like that people would talk about forever, or a UFO photo that people couldn't explain, just to fool people. I wanted to make my own Bigfoot movie, but I wanted to be the Bigfoot, right? I wanted to be the Loch Ness Monster. I wanted to be the actual thing that people were confused about. And that eventually all these different ideas tie together. And I come up with what I call the Transformation Project, which is essentially about me trying to look and behave not human. And eventually that gets refined into having a theme, which is a reptilian theme. And then when I've got that theme, I get approached by Ripley. So I didn't actually use the name Lizardman until I was several years into it. It's 1999 when I was being filmed by Ripley's. And up until that point, I was using different names every time I performed. It was very performance arty, young, stupid thing to do where I'm like, oh, today my name is this, or for a while I was Mistake or The Mistake. So it's art by mistake. Anything I did was art by mistake because I'm Mistake. Still bullshit. But when I'm filming with Ripley's, of course, they're making a TV show, right? They need a hook, and they've decided, like the producer that had my segment was like, had an idea that I would be a really good segment, like saw something with me. And he was like, I think people are going to connect with you. They're going to like it. Cause I do kind of get it at a certain level where I'm not hurting anybody. I'm trying to amuse you motherfuckers. Right. I'm like, hey, look at the crazy shit I'll do. Right. But I do it for me and I hope that other people enjoy it type of thing. And he was like, yeah, I think that message is going to work well. So they really wanted to use me to promote the show, and they did. But the big question was, were they going to call me? Cause they're like, everybody's kind of got a hook, it's like, when the guy that sticks magnet to himself, he's not Bob the magnet, he's the magnet guy, right? And so we talked about a couple of different names, and at one point I was like, the closest thing I had used to that point was a friend of mine had called me Snake Boy jokingly. So every now and then online, I'd sign my name Snake Boy, like posting online shit. And I was like, I don't really want to be Snake Boy because you're going to be boy so long. And at that point, I'm already 27 fucking years old.
Right. And this is before the tongue?
No, I had my tongue done. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He called me Snake Boy because of my tongue.
Gotcha.
It's 99 with Ripley's. And at one point I'm like, well, Lizardman works for me. And they're like, okay, you're the Lizardman. And then the show goes on. And it's a huge success. And just like he thought, the producer thought, like my segment became the most popular segment of that episode, then of that season, and then at one point of the run. They had voting online shit for that. So yeah, it was a massive thing. I want to say 12 million people watched the first episode when it first came out. The last time I looked, it was something like 40 million people worldwide. It had been broadcast audience.
And at this time, what were your parents doing? Were they cheering you on?
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. In terms of me, they were always cheering me on. Like, maybe not actively being like, hey, why don't you drop out of school and try to be a sideshow, but always supportive and being like, okay, because like I said, they've always been a big proponent, my dad especially, of like, he was drafted, right? He was so happy. He married his girl. They're happy. He's graduated from college, ski patrol out in Colorado. Things are going really good. Boom, Vietnam, right? And so, I mean, he never, we didn't have movie moments in my family. I never once in my life, my mom and dad or either one of them sit down with me or my sister that, maybe with my sister, not with me anyway, right? They'd be like, okay, we're having this talk. We're like, but we were always talking, always communicating, and they were always very aware of what was going on in my life and what I was saying. That's why my mom said afterwards, she goes, she was asked it by a TV crew. They're like, what do you think of, what your son's done, the tattooing his face and all this? And she said, at this point, it'd be weirder if he didn't. Yeah. They could see it coming. Like, they understand. Like, my mom and dad saw me as the weird little kid in rural upstate New York who's already reading before he's in kindergarten, right? And going up and all the different things I'd been interested in and tried and not done. Like, they saw how I developed. So for them, it wasn't so much that they're like, yeah, go be a circus freak, as they were like, yeah, go do what you want. That's why I always say, like, to people, I like, if you get past the particulars of what I've done, like tattooing and splitting my tongue and swallowing swords, don't think about that. Just think of those as the things that I do, right? Broadly. It doesn't matter what those things are, whether it's that or painting pictures or running a store. Where it's like, look at the way I do it, and I approach those things in the same way, in ways that other people can benefit from. Like, yeah, it's not about me tattooing my face. It's about me living a life I want to live. Everybody, I think, should have the opportunity or aspire to live a life that is truly and authentically their own. And I'm doing my best at that. It just, for me, that means tattooing my face. For other people, it means playing an instrument or, like I say, opening a business or, whatever it is.
You know, one of the things that I've said about you, and I've said it about you before I told you forever, I would tell anybody that would listen, because, I'll talk about all my friends like I'm their publicist. And they don't have to be in the entertainment business. They could be a barista, and I'll be like...
Yeah, you'll pump up your favorite banker.
Yeah. But one of the things I love, and I've told you this before, but I want these guys to know, is, look, man, everyone's going to get judged. It doesn't matter if big, fat, short, black, blue, whatever. Someone's going to throw some shade.
That's why you can't worry about it.
That's why you can't worry about it. But one of the things I love about you, and I'll say this, is I'm a big fan of going all in. I'm a big fan of committing to something. And it didn't hit me logically until a couple years into our friendship that I was like, this guy went all in.
Yeah.
Like, I hear all these people saying, if I had more time, I'd do this thing.
Yeah.
Or if only this had happened, this other thing would happen. Right. And it's like, dude, and I always tell people,
if I had more money in the bank, I'd quit my job and do the thing I wanted to.
But you did it. You did it so much so that, I don't mean this as an insult, but I jokingly say this. The dude made himself unemployable.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to be, do you want to be a Walmart greeter, Mr. Sprigg?
The old joke in the body modification community used to be, I was trying to remember his name. He was a piercer out of Philly. He said this to like a news reporter, gave him like that. They came down to his shop, kind of semi-hostile. They're like, oh, well, why would people do this to themselves and blah, 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 blah. And like one of the things was like, well, how do you think someone's ever supposed to get a job at McDonald's or the bank looking like that? And his brother, he goes, I don't want to work at a bank or McDonald's.
Yeah.
You're telling me I can't have something I don't want. That's like coming to my plates and being like, oh, you tattoo your face? No Brussels sprouts for you. Like, thanks, I didn't fucking want them in the first place.
Yeah. And I really, look, we can talk for hours. Yeah. I have questions for them, and I have questions, quite frankly, for me. But let's, because usually we just hang out. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, people, this guy, I don't see him as green. It's like your friend with glasses. You're just like, hey, is Johnny here?
Instead of Clark Kent glasses, I have Clark Kent conversations. If I talk to you enough, you forget.
Yeah, and it's just like, hey, Johnny here. Is like, he's the one with the glasses. I'm like, does Johnny wear glasses? Like, oh, is he green? I recognize you're green more because I see other people seeing you.
Yeah.
Like when we were in London, that one guy that enraged me because he overreacted. Like he wanted people to see him seeing you. Yeah. And he was like, whoa. And I was like, I hate you. I don't like you. But so you did the green thing. You went. Was there a natural progression from body modification, living your happy life, split the tongue? We'll talk about it in another episode, eyebrows, another episode, but we're also on time restraints right now. How did Sideshow become part of it? To go from I'm tattooing to I'm going to do these feats of actual danger.
Well, the Sideshow stuff actually predates the body modification for me. I was interested in being able to do stunt work because, like, going back to what superpower do you have, I wanted to have superpowers. And I wanted to be a true believer too. Like, I'm the kid that cut out the certificate and mailed it in from the back of the comic book for the Rosicrucians or the Illuminati and all that. Because I thought, I'm like, well, if powers exist, I'm going to find somebody who can teach me how to get them. So that's how I got into martial arts. I was like, I wanted to be a ninja. I watched Ninja, but I was like, okay, what do I got to do to stop my heart? What do I got to do to be able to do all this crazy shit? I'm like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. But more, even for me, it was more like the physical stuff. Like I want to be able to endure fire to, that was sort of the motivation to learn. And, as I'm learning about this, because I'm not a dumb kid, I figure out pretty quickly, I'm like, seems like most of these people are full of shit. But you can do some cool stuff. So I started learning how to do stuff because I wanted to do it. And then I find out it wasn't real or people were faking it. So I learned a bunch of ways to do shit that was fake, like magic tricks. So I got into magic really big. I had my magic period, as a lot of people do, especially if they go into Sideshow. And then I was like, well, this is real and I can condition it. It's not quite a superpower, but it's very rarefied that someone will put themselves through what they need to be able to swallow a sword, to walk on hot coals, to do all these things. So I started doing all of that. Then when I got into body modification shortly thereafter, early in college, I was already playing with fire in high school and things like that for sideshow. I started learning about tattooed people. Well, that history is tied to carnivals and circuses and sideshow. So they're all kind of together, mixed up. And at that point, that's for me too. It all becomes one big thing, you know, doing the sideshow stunts and doing it. Like when I was first in college as an art student, like artistically, and this is one of those things where I thought I was so smart, right? You think back to that great idea you had when you were 19 or 20 and you thought you were brilliant. And now you look back and you're like, it wasn't a bad idea. It was just like, it wasn't the invention you thought it was.
Right.
So because I was learning and teaching myself sideshow stunts by trying to figure out how to learn to have superpowers, I realized I could do those things. I could perform them in a gallery as art. I thought I was like, I'm going to be groundbreaking. I'm going to do the human blockhead in an art gallery, right? I'm going to lay on a bed of nails in front of the art elite where they sip champagne, and I'll have this big philosophical concept of why I'm doing it and all this shit, and it'll blow people's mind. No, it won't. Number one, performance art, like we're talking about the early 90s now, like I was dreaming of like the heyday of performance art in the 70s, which still wasn't that big, right? You know, there's only a couple of people, but like Vito Acconci, Chris Burden, Carol Lee
That's the one that had the stuff thrown at her?
Yeah, different artists that I saw as influences, and they were all very big in the 70s. There were 80s artists that influenced me too, but yeah, like I was very naive. I was very much a 19-year-old artist.
Why do you think they weren't blown away though? Because to this day, I've been around all you guys. I find it fascinating today.
Right. They were, and that's the thing. You see the renaissance of sideshow comes because in the sideshow, you know, the classic quote is undersell, overdeliver.
Right.
But in the sideshow, I always think of it as our job is to oversell and overdeliver. Because it's all the normally you're like, yeah, don't hype it up too much. And then you get like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't think it would be that great. Like that's undersell, overdeliver, right? Oversell, overdeliver is what we do in sideshow, where I stand outside and I tell you, this will change your fucking life if you buy a ticket and come inside. And then you come inside and it does, you know, change your life. Maybe not a little bit for the rest of the day, but you remember it forever. That's the whole thing, that memory that sticks with you. And so it's that overselling aspect and that over-delivering aspect that comes there that really makes a sideshow stunt work. Now, when I was trying to do it in a gallery, I was presenting it as an artist. I was trying to get people to think about it. It's the wrong context for it, right? And also, like I said, I was just being a very naive young artist thinking that I had changed the world with a thought, right? Which is, like I said, it's a perfectly normal thing to do. By the way, if you're 19 and you're an artist and you're watching this, a lot of your ideas are probably really good, but they're nowhere near as good as you think they are. They never are.
But don't stop having
don't stop.
ideas.
No. Keep going. Yeah, I didn't quit. What happened was, right, I graduated from college and I thought like, oh, as soon as I bust this shit out, the world's going to come beating down my door and make me famous, right? And it turns out, no. The world never beats down your door. You got to go kick in a door and say, hey, fucking look at me and look what I've got for you. That you have to start overselling. You have to be like, hey, over here, pay attention, look at what I'm going to do. And then you do something that actually lives up to your hype. And people go, oh, okay, that's cool. They still don't bust down your door, but they start coming to a show, right? And you build off that. That's the whole point. Yeah. Those
I always say, get a
quit.
pair of shoes that's a couple of size too big, you'll grow into it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Performance-wise, that's exactly what it is. Like when you're starting off in a career, and it's like we were talking last night to a younger company about, like in your career, you're always going to be at a point where, oh, you're going to be chasing something that you are that if you got it, you would be woefully unprepared for, right? There are comics right now, say it's Saturday night in Austin, there are comics on stages right now thinking, man, if somebody would just offer me a Netflix deal, somebody would just give me a 30-minute special, right? I would fucking kill it. And I guarantee that almost every one of them will die horribly because whatever you think you're ready for, it's actually the step before that you're ready for. Everybody looks at that over there, that's my goal. I'm my Netflix special, my Chappelle show, my whatever the fuck it is, you know, my big show. It's like, yeah, I'm going for it. I'm ready for it. I just need the opportunity. No, you need the opportunity right here. You need the baby step, then the other one to get there. Because if somebody gives you this right now, even if you're successful, you will crash and burn. You'll be the one-hit wonder.
Yep.
How many times do we have to see in history people getting destroyed by their own success?
Where did you have supervision the first time in public where you decided to sword swallow? Right. Did you have friends by your side to be like, hey, man, I need you to watch this. And if I start to go down, call 911. I mean, what was that process like to even...
Idiot. That's why I tell people, like, you don't want to teach yourself. And there's no excuse anymore because I didn't have any other options. I still could have done it smarter, right? But for like sword swallowing, I got a bucket and a sword, and I sat in front of my TV, and I would just put it down my throat, and I'd throw up, and I'd throw up, do that. My housemates would come in and out and whatever and see me order, but I didn't really supervise. With fire, I was always very careful. I never did fire unless I had another person there as a safety catch. Like, I was smart enough for that, and it was, it is live and learn. Like, a lot of times afterwards, but I was very lucky in that I didn't have the big accident. I would just, after not having the accident, I'd think about it, be like, oh shit, wait, that could have gone sideways. Why'd we do it that way? Okay, we'll never do that again, right? So I learned from mistakes I didn't make, luckily enough, and from other people's mistakes. Like, once I started zoning in on what I wanted to do and what my goals were, performance-wise, body modification-wise, like that, I was already, like I said, the nerd part of me is I'm a researcher, right? So I turned all the focus that I had put into like grad school and everything else in my life up to that point. Now I was laser focused on this.
Okay.
So, I basically gave myself a crash course master's degree in the history of circus and sideshow in less than a year. I had run through everything in the University of Albany library. I was online, early internet, right? Early mid-90s. I'm everything I could get my hands on, every piece of information. I'm checking, cross-checking, teaching myself new stunts and doing all of this stuff as a nerd. So that was the process that kind of protected me from having too many big accidents. But I become aware of everybody else in the world that's doing it, which at that point is a very small community. And I was only a couple hours away from Coney Island, so I got in contact with those guys. I reached out to Mr. Lifto online and things like that. So I was...
So it was right down the road.
Yeah, now I'm here
right down the road.
in Austin. But I was gathering other people's knowledge and experience as my own data pool. I was like, okay, you said something bad happened when you did this, so I'm not going to do this. Or if I do it, I'm not going to do it that way, right? And I became sort of that. I created that research pool for myself, and then I'm doing more and more stuff. So now I am on the front edge. Like anything else, when you get in, you start doing well, you kind of find yourself on that leading edge. Where now I'm way back. It's funny too because I see people doing it. Or I get contacted. Ariel Manx, before he did a backflip with a sword down, contacted me asking me what I thought about it. And I told him all the ways I thought it would be horribly wrong and dumb to do, but it did seem possible. So he went ahead with it and he did it successfully and, get on. But I'm way past that point in my life where I'm doing those risks. Like I will literally farm out my bad ideas to other people, like a mutual friend of ours, Dan Block. Right? I sat him down at a bar one night to teach him, asked him if he wanted to learn a stunt. And, he didn't come out and ask why, but I was like, before you even do ask me why I'm willing to teach you, it's because I got a lot of silly ideas for this. I'm not going to do this stunt anymore. I want somebody else to try out my ideas because I don't want them to go wasted.
Right. So was there a moment in your sideshow journey, not that you felt like you'd arrived, but you had left a stage filled with like joy and pride? Like, was there a particular moment where you were just full?
So I've very, very lucky. Opportunities came to me that I wasn't ready for, but I was able to live up to them enough. So, I didn't start off touring small. I started off doing local shows, and then very quickly, I got offered a role in the Jim Rose Circus, replacing, 3 or 4 people that I considered like as modern, not heroes, but like, oh, these people are the top. And I'm being hired to replace them, to step into their shoes in the show. That was Torture King, Lifto, and Enigma, and Matt the Tube. So doing all of their acts from the original circus in this new version. And I was like, wow, okay, I've made it like that. Now, I thought that was big. Again, I was still a bit naive, and I thought like, oh, I'm going to get in the story. It's going to be great. And now I'm going to have droves of fans. This is it. This is the rocket ship. I'm about to take off, right? I get in there, and it turns out that Jim's a raging asshole. And I'm very happy. And my dream turned into kind of a nightmare because I loved what I was doing, and I loved the crowds, but I hated him and being on the road with him. So I had this love-hate relationship with what I was doing. When I got away from him, then I was like, oh, shit, well, his name carried a lot of weight. I was in his show and he took me on a national tour like that. So, I don't have that support anymore. He has an agent, a publicist. I'm completely independent on my own. I was like, am I going to be able to do it? So just that first year after I left Jim Rose was big for me because I survived strictly on performing. I didn't go back to tending bar. I didn't allow myself to take a normal job, to take a support job, or take any support or money from anybody else. I was like, no, I got to make or break it, live by my craft here, and that will make me get better. I purposely put my back up against the wall, right?
Right.
And this is a little bit like, it's been a little bit more than a year, but in 2002, an event took place called the Sideshow Gathering. And there's a lot of people there, a lot of my influences, all contemporary peers, the bigger names. It was like Todd Robin, Harley Newman, older people like Ward Hall, Bobby Reynolds. Well, I know nobody knows who the fuck these people are if you don't care about circus and sideshow.
Look them up.
But this was the room. And I'm looking at the people, I'm looking at the generation before me, the people that are starting, that are right there with me starting out like that, and people that are looking to get in. It's a full, and like I say, it's all the names of that time were there, which is, and it's a very small room because there weren't that many of us doing it. I did my show, which I had put together my full show. And it was based a lot off, we've talked about this, Amazing Jonathan had a Comedy Central special, and I structured it that way with using a volunteer and keeping him on stage. But it was all stunts instead of magic tricks. And they progressed, and I had a couple of stunts that I had invented, and I had a couple of old stunts that I had come up with totally new ways of doing. And I was really, putting them out there and testing it. And the thing was, this event was known for people who would come there to sort of plagiarize acts and be like, oh, how's that person do that? And still, I got a standing ovation. And I was like, a standing ovation from your peers. The people who are like, if an audience likes you, that just means you did your fucking job. You're supposed to be likable. They bought a ticket, you're on stage, you put on a good enough show. But if the people who do what you do acknowledge you as being one of the best, as having done something, having, invented and brought something new to a stage that they appreciate, that like immediately they're like, yeah, we want to steal your act, that sort of stuff like that, because that's how sideshow is, right? It's one of those, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but, please don't steal my act type of shit. That's rampant in circus and in sideshow. When somebody does something and it works, or if you do something and it works, immediately because people start copying it immediately. So yeah, I got a standing round of applause for my, I think it was like a 45-minute, hour-long set there with a bunch of stunts through it. And then just the weekend of hanging out, people like talking to me like I was somebody, like, because, I had very much in that point, anytime I was around anybody else, like Todd or Harley, whatever, I tried to be the little kid in the room, ask all the questions, be like, you have knowledge, I want it from you. Now, people were coming to me like I was supposed to have knowledge from it. That part was a little upsetting. I was like, hold on, it's not like I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just, I'm another idiot like you. But you start getting treated that way, you feel that change, right? Where you go from being someone who's just one of us idiots fucking around to someone that other people will come to and be like, hey, I like your straitjacket escape, or how'd you come up with that? Or would you tell me a little bit of like your thinking behind this? Like, oh wait, yeah, people are into my shit. And that for me was a big, for a moment, that feeling.
That's amazing. Is there something on the horizon that you're looking forward to? And it doesn't have to be sideshow related.
Yeah, I mean,
just what's something that you look forward to?
Right. Professionally, it's weird. So I've also personally gone through things. So when I first started out, part of the whole thing about this creation not being human was also like misanthropy. Like, I don't like people. I didn't like people very much. When I started off, a big part of why I like doing gross stuff is because it did gross people out, because there were people who didn't like it. When I was younger, I wasn't performing for the people that were cheering. I was performing for the people that were running away. I was trying to weed people out of my life in a broad sense. I was like, you know what? The people who cheer when I do the gross stuff, those are my people. The people that run away, I want to make them run faster, And
Right on.
Over the course of 30 years of touring and performing, my sort of redemption arc for that is I've become a more tolerant, nicer person. And I've tried to find ways to make what I do more palatable to people so that they don't run away as fast, because I realize that now I want to perform for the people who are cheering, right? I don't want anybody to run away. If you do, it's not going to hurt. I don't give a shit, right? If you run out because you can't handle it. But now I focus on the positive. I think I was definitely putting out some negative energy in the beginning, where now all I want to do is have a good time with everybody there. If you're not down for that good time, then yeah, get your ass out.
Yeah, no.
Right? But I'm not even gonna pause for that little bit of negativity of like, yeah, why don't you just get the fuck out of here? No, I'm not even gonna give you that. You just quietly slink away, and I'm not even gonna notice. Now I'm all about performing for people that enjoy what I do and giving them a good experience. Which to me is a change. It feels different for me.
Right.
And so you say, like, what am I looking forward to? I mean, at this point in my life, I'm looking forward to just doing more and more gigs, trying more and more dumb ideas, and continuing to have fun with it. There are, and because I hit so many career goals early. Again, I just got stupidly lucky. National tours right off the bat, things like that. So now, like when I do smaller shows, I'm like, well, this is the stuff that I was supposed to do before I got that big tour, and I'm doing it now. I'm doing it in reverse order, right? I went from doing local dive bar shows to on tour, 10,000 people a night, opening up for a major rock band, and then hosting festivals and all this big shit. So you're like, yeah, now I'm doing house shows, and now
we did a basement yesterday.
Yeah, we did the basement of a children's restaurant last night. I'm like,
it was fun though, right?
Oh, no, it's great.
What a great time.
That's the whole point, right? Yeah, I'm doing fun things with people that are having fun with me, right? And I've found that sort of thing.
You've also done a really good job of nurturing the up-and-coming talent. I've seen you do that, and I know you weren't going to say that and brag on yourself. Be like, also what I'm great at is taking care of people. But I've seen you do that overseas. I've seen you do that in London. I've seen you do that in Australia, to where you really take an interest. And I don't know where you got this phrase from, but I quote you a lot on this. You told me years and years ago to be the person you wish you had coming up.
Which, if you didn't say it, I was going to say it again right now, because it's the easiest, quickest way to explain like what you should be doing as you rise up any ladder, right?
Yep.
So it's like, I don't care. Yeah, if you go to work in an office, you're a management company or something like that, as you are going up, be nice to people. Pay attention to the people that you get moved up to the next floor. You still need to maintain it, because look, when you get to the top, who are all the people working for you? All of these people you just moved by who came in after you. You need to know them. You just were like, and I'll say it. You've probably heard me say this too, backstage joking with somebody. I'll be like, yeah, in 20 years you can pay. I'll tell somebody or help somebody with something. Be like, in 20 years, help me out. Hire me, because it's not my ambition to be the show owner, to be paying people to perform. I will gladly help out. I know how to run productions. I know how to do them, and I will give you that advice. I don't want that job. I like the responsibility of being a performer. That's where my heart and my passion is. So I'm very thankful for people who do those other jobs, and I support them. And I know that when I meet a young performer, look, statistically, just in my life, and even more broadly, if you look at the industry, odds are they won't be still performing in 20 years.
Right.
If I'm still alive, I will be.
Right.
They will have another job still in entertainment. So I'm like, yeah, hey, like I said, if I help you out when you're a kid, maybe later on you're going to be my tour manager. You'll be my production manager. You're going to be my booker. You're going to be my.
You're playing the role of father's sideshow. You're like, I changed your diapers, now you change mine.
Exactly. Yeah. All I'm asking for is just remember. And you've heard me say this too. Dude, and this is a Space Cowboy, a mutual friend. He always said it. And I follow it. Like, information is free. If you just want information from me, I'll give you information. If you want actual advice and help, that's a little bit different, where I'm like, I want to know that you want it, why you want it, and I'm going to tailor it to your situation. But I will give it. And the only thing I'm asking in return is, acknowledge that I did that. Say nice things about me when I'm not in the room. Give me a gig in 10 years when you're in control.
Which I know a lot of your friends, and they do that. They do exactly that. I do want to say on this topic is be nice to you, do the gigs, take care of each other. If you, the human being, and the world-renowned Lizardman, were to give advice to the next generation of not just sideshow, but of artists, or you know what, of people,
right?
How do you think people should move forward to find their joy?
Yeah, it's a nice, easy question to end it, right?
Yeah.
Nothing big or heavy existential.
Yeah, right. I was just like, there's no right answer, right?
And to wrap up, solve the world's problems.
Exactly.
Right? Now, I think the biggest thing, and we touched upon this a couple of times throughout this already, is if you've got the thing that you want to do, especially at the beginning, the most important thing is not quitting. Because, look, when you're talking about entertainment, I thought about this last night. I didn't say it to Omar, but I was trying to come up with a witty thing to say, right? I want to say that witty thing. I go, look, art hates quitters, right? Entertainment hates quitters. If you quit, you never get anywhere. You never, right? You're never going to shift. But quitters love the arts. Okay? Doesn't matter if you're talking about stand up or painting, whatever. It doesn't take you very, right now, you're just thinking about all the people that have quit, right? Ask any artist, any entertainer of any kind, how many, do they know more people that have stuck with it, or way more people quit? Every day, 100 people start, and 200 people quit. It's not quite that math won't work out. But like,
That's great math.
But if you go to any local comedy scene, right, you're going to see the same people for about 20, 30 years, right? And it's a small group of people. There's like 5. The Austin scene, we can both name people that have been around for 10 years. People have been 15, 20, small, right? But I could name you 100 people from 2010. I tell you what, go back and look at all the contestants from Funniest Person in Austin in 2010, the first year that I did it, and there's maybe 6 of them that are still doing comedy, right? And we're talking about well over 100 people.
And that's the thing, like,
just don't quit.
You need to go through that fire. That's how you evolve anyway. You don't quit. You learn more from failure. Cliche to say, fall forward. But yeah, that was a crazy question I asked you. I was all like, so.
But I mean,
fix world hunger.
But yeah, especially for artists, but for anybody, just quit. Don't quit. Like, and there's a difference between recognizing that it's not for you or something else and quitting. Right? But it's because if you quit, when people quit, they quit with no backup. They don't have anything else. Like, if you're doing something and you realize, oh wait, I'm doing this, and like maybe it's not working out, maybe I'm not well suited for it, whatever. I'm 4'8", I'll never make the NBA. Basketball probably shouldn't be my career. Right. And then you find the other thing, and you're like, yeah, you don't quit that. I mean, you keep it like you still play basketball recreationally, right? You still go do open mics if you find out you're not going to make it because you got to pay the bills. Right. But yeah, when you do find your thing, or you decide that you want to see if something is your thing, you can't give up too easily on it. You've got to, like I said, you've got to make a full commitment, right? Doesn't have to be tattooing your face level full commitment, but if you didn't make a full commitment, you didn't really try.
Right.
And if you fail, who gives a fuck? Fail at something else.
On that note, I mean, what I love is we can do this episode. We can do this more and more. I have a lot of other things I want to touch on, but the fact of the matter is, this has been a great first episode. Episode number 1 with my traveling global roommate, the world-renowned Lizardman. You can follow him on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and just be his friend. Be nice. Be nice to the lizards.
Be nice.
Eric, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I appreciate it. We're out of this.
We're out, and we're out.
Laters, everybody. Until next time, rock the day, rule the night. Laters. All right.
Cool.